Hi there. Good evening, everyone. Winifred here, magical maven of Owentree, and I am just jumping on live stream. Tonight we're going to be having a conversation about connecting to your inner witch, what that means, what that has meant for me in my life, and hope, as always, I hope to inform and inspire your journey as I share the wisdoms and experiences from my own. And before I get into the topic for this evening's workshop, if someone in the out there in the world of the internet could just let me know in the chat room that you see and hear me okay. Just before I get going, I don't want to get going and find out that something with the technology could be a little wonky. I see definitely the chat room's working. I can see that people are chiming in where they're at. So if someone could just give me a thumbs up. All right, awesome, thank you. Yeah, great. All right, so it looks like you guys can see and hear me okay. So I'm Winifred. I do own a business, a magical, new age, metaphysical, physical store, like a boutique shop located in Western Mass. But I'm also an intuitive healer. I identify as an eclectic witch, bordering on like a traditional witch. I've studied a lot of different paths in depth. And I'm very passionate about earth-centered spiritualities and empowering people that I meet to find a spiritual path that, one, celebrates the earth. I think that's very relevant to our times. But also one that empowers your spiritual agency, encourages you to find your spiritual authenticity and to step into to claim your personal power and step into your power however is best for you. So tonight's conversation is not going to focus on just one tradition. There's many wonderful traditions out there. That's like a different that would be a different class. Tonight we're just going to talk about how to start connecting to your inner magical sensibilities, what I would call your inner witch, your inner magic, how to nurture your inner spark for your personal growth. Like I said, I'm going to as far as like in the world of earth-centered spiritual traditions, as I like to call them, people identify as pagan, some people don't, some people identify as witches, some people don't, Wiccan, a whole bunch of, I like magical practitioner. So there's a whole bunch of different, very specific traditions, but we're gonna stay a little more broader in tonight's conversation. I love seeing where everyone's from. I'm gonna have to jump back and forth to check the chat room. I am flying solo here tonight, so I'm managing the chat room and reading your questions and comments as well as teaching you all. So just bear with me when I scroll through the chat room, just seeing where everyone's from. It's that's awesome. There's a lot of local folks from good old East Hampton. That's where Owentree is. Northampton, that's awesome. So there's lots of local folks. North Carolina, a little further out in Hatfield, Amherst. Oh, someone that's in Michigan, Florence. Sweet. Looks like we're super local tonight. Maybe because it's 8 o'clock on the East Coast. I did a similar class yesterday, Monday, and we were further afield, but the time zone was a little friendlier. So anyway, I digress. So all right, what do you come here to hear about? So we're going to be talking about what it means to connect to your inner witch, your inner magic, and to nurture that within yourself, and to like bring it out and seek to empower it and inspire it and grow it to a bigger flame. That's my goal for today. So what's my story? If you already have come into the store, been with other classes, you know a little bit about my background, but if you're new to meeting me, a little bit about me. So I do own a new age metaphysical store. It's called Owentree. I like to nickname it as the magical hub for the seeker. It's a place where healing and magic intersect to transform your life. But a little bit about my story and my journey. So I definitely got into all things occult and metaphysical, and was a very curious child. I had some kind of interesting experiences at an early age, and I had very intense dreams. My parents did not raise me in a church. I was raised in a very spiritually open-minded environment. So I was always encouraged to explore and learn and follow my nose when things sort of were speaking to me. And then in a super dating myself nerd moment, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. And so there was a show back then called In Search Of. It was hosted by Leonard Nimoy, who is famous for being Spock. And I super was a nerd and super geeked out on this show and loved watching it. And I found that the topics that they would focus on completely compelling. And oftentimes I would ask my dad to drive me to the library, or ask my dad about like the topic that I focused on, or ask to go to the library so I could dig up more books and learn more about whatever. Like I remember one time they talked about the Nazca lines in South America, and they talked about the pyramids in Egypt and all these things. And I was like hungry to know more about these incredible and mysterious places, whether it was Atlantis or the Nazca lines or ancient Egyptians or anything like that. I was just hungry for more knowledge. And because it stirred something very deep within me. It like really resonated. Like it felt right, familiar. And so fast forward a little bit. And as a teenager, I just continued to explore those avenues, and I discovered paganism, and I was very much into being outside and nature. I've always had a strong sensibility about connecting to being outside, to nature, wanting to go camping, wanting to spend hours outside in the fields behind my parents' house, in the forest. Those things really, really called to me. And so I had a very earthy aspect to myself, and I was a huge animal lover. So I felt a strong connection to all things pagan because of the earth-centered aspect of it and the animal component. Like something that was very important to me was finding a faith that really reflected my values. And I found that in paganism at an early age. So I really pursued studying there. But one of the challenges I encountered was finding community, finding like-minded folks. While my parents were open-minded, they certainly weren't pagans. So I lacked like anyone to do a ritual with, or to even know if I was doing a ritual, like to share and understand how do you do a ritual? Is this the way you do it? There was not the internet. So there weren't the access to resources like there are now. And their bookstores were few and far between. And published books actually were not that many. There were books, but not that many. And if you went to a bookstore, there wasn't the internet. So you couldn't go into a bookstore with an awareness even of an author or like a book you wanted to get, to even request it. You had to just go into a bookstore and poke around on the shelves, and whatever few books they happened to put there were the ones you got to pick from. And so it was a very different time. And so one of the things I really craved was community, and the experience, like shared growth and understanding that would come from from being with other folks. And that was definitely very, very tricky. And I always tell the story that I was out on my own at 18. I lived in my first apartment in Boston, and I saw this flyer for this amazing cooperative house. I wanted to go become a roommate there, and they were pagans, and they also had a teaching coven. And so I did a couple of phone interviews, and they totally were, phone interviews were really great. They set up an in-person meeting, and I went to the meeting, and they took one look at me and were like, "Oh my gosh, you're really young." I was 18, but that was too young for them. And so they said, "Well, you seem really cool, but you're too young for us to bring into our group." So I was excited I had found that, but disappointed that I was too young in their opinion. But I could respect that. In hindsight, I can respect their decision. But that really kind of fueled even more my quest to find others. So when I moved into my 20s, I moved to Western Mass, I was kind of blown away to start finding that there were other people like me. And I started practicing in this small group. And that, just not in a coven, it was just a circle of friends. And that was really mind-blowing. I was a single mom, and so schedules were interesting. Everyone worked jobs, and we were all trying to just get by in our regular lives, but we really wanted to share in spiritual community, and what we were all identified as pagan and witchy. So we would do things like look at a month ahead and pick something that fit. Like we'll do the full moon, or we'll do the dark moon, or we'll do this Sabbath. And we did usually one, sometimes we did two things, but usually we did one. And in hindsight, you would probably call us a circle or a grove, because we were not a coven. Like we co-created together, and neither one of us really knew what we were doing. We just had a few books. We would assign research and understanding. Maybe one person would craft or write a song, and another one of us would call the 4 directions. And we just kind of followed our hearts and our inner knowing. But the most important thing about that, like, so sometimes it was a little goofy, or felt a little like we weren't really sure what we were doing, or we had to read from notes. But what I discovered that was really important was that nothing teaches like experience. So as much as we want to read and be knowledgeable and respect that pathway, nothing teaches like experience. Nothing brings your magic to life like doing your magic. And so one of the things that when people ask me, how can I start to really connect or go further? An important thing that I really tell people is that there is really nothing that teaches you like experience. And at a certain point, you just have to begin somewhere. And when you actually set that space and that intention, something really, like your magic starts to really come alive. Your confidence will grow, your understanding will grow, especially when you goof things up or discover things like you're setting up your first outside ritual and you want to have these candles burning on a stone altar that you make, and it didn't even occur to you to bring like hurricane lantern, like glass hurricanes, or to put your candles in jars. So as soon as you get to light your candles and you get to the last candle that you're lighting, you look back and the first candle's been blown out by the wind. And what are you going to do? Keep running around in circles and trying to light candles? Or are you going to actually get down to doing your ceremony or ritual that you wanted to do? So, but you're not going to know, one, what that feels like, two, to go, oh, mental note, need to put candles inside glass jars, fire safety, and for the wind, and maybe make sure I have a level surface, maybe bring one of those long hearth matches rather than short matches, these kinds of things. You're not going to really discover them or know them or understand what that's all about until you do it. And it's okay to do it and feel like you're not doing it right. It's okay to do it and not have all the answers. It's okay to do it and like practice magic, connect, do things that really speak to you spiritually, even if you don't have all the answers, because you gain the answers as you go. And also having the experiences and encountering something makes you afterwards go back to the table and be like, oh, right, I ran into that obstacle or that challenge. Oh, like now I know what I don't know, and now I have a way to go forward to learn more. So does that make sense? So like really the only way to step into your magic is to step into it. So that all said, I was going to check the chat room real quick and just tell me if this is landing, if this is making sense. If you have any questions, put them up in the chat as we go. I'll keep peeking over there and checking. So some things that I wanted to share about connecting to your inner witch. So I believe that inside all of us, if we're drawn to these things, that we each have a unique spark, a unique fire. In old traditions, this would be called the witch flame. It's unique in each of us. I believe that we each have a unique way that our fire burns and a unique way of expressing that. Like we all know that each one of us is totally unique, and we have unique gifts that we bring to the table, and unique gifts we bring to the world. And the way our fire burns is for us to understand and discover and nurture. There's a lot of common things that will help all of us, but in the end, it's a very personal journey. But I do think that once those stirrings start happening, once you wake up, once your witch blood wakes up, it never really goes back to sleep. You can silence it, you can avoid it, you can try to fit in and not listen to it, but once something really stirs it and awakens it, it's kind of like a horse. Once it's out of the barn, it is out of the barn. So you can try to stick it back in, but it never really goes all the way back in. It never really returns to sleep. It will keep waking up and asking for your attention. I'm sure many of you can relate to that if you've had any experiences that you felt like really stirred your soul deeply and started to spark but I want to know more about that, or something more is going on here. I'm sensing that there's more to life in the world than the mundane that I see right in front of me. So another thing is that, why does it matter? Why does it matter once this inner awakening happens? Why do we care? Why does it matter? Why will we want to nurture it and bring it forward further? It certainly can lead to an interesting and unique life if you follow your inner witch flame and inner witch fire. But the reality is that it's part of who you are, and your magical expression fuels you. It's like a superpower. It lights you up. If you're like me, it brings you more to life. You feel more alive. It fuels what you're here to do on the planet, and whatever unique things you're meant to be doing to express yourself, the changes you're meant to make in your corner of the world. And so when we connect into our inner witch and start to grow it, there's all these other senses that come with that, like tapping into your intuition and your inner knowing and your inner guidance goes hand in hand with that. And that's a very beneficial gift to bring out and develop further. And if you are like me, it lights you up. And if you took that out of me, my life would be a whole lot duller, and I wouldn't be so passionate, and I wouldn't be so driven to make changes in the world, that the changes I want to see. I wouldn't be as driven to, or fueled or empowered to believe I could do it, that I have a place at the table and a voice to share and a difference to make in the world. So really, your inner witch ushers in a whole set of very empowering gifts and skills and energy that helps guide your whole life. So I think it's really vital for living a soul purposeful life, a life that feels vibrant and like it's really connected to your authentic self. I think it's really vital that once our witch blood wakes up, once these things start stirring, that we nurture them and care and encourage them and pay attention to them. If you got, and just gonna check, see if there's any questions. Oh, good, making total sense with me so far. Yes. Oh yeah, so sometimes like the beauty and benefit of a live webinar, like a live online class, is that it is live. So all kinds of interesting things can happen. Mercury is retrograde. I'm not sure if it goes direct this week or very soon. I've been very busy, so I haven't kept my finger quite on that. Plus, I'm the kind of person I really hate to use Mercury retrograde as an excuse. I'm not sure. I think I saw Betty here. If Betty's here, she's the master astrologer in the community here tonight. So she could totally chime in on this in the chat room. Perhaps, hopefully she will. She's still here. I really don't like to be disempowered around Mercury retrograde, but it has seemed to have been kind of an interesting week, like tech-wise, communication-wise. It's been like technology. For me, it probably depends on. So Mercury retrograde, this is a total side tangent, is very. Like it's something that happens, but it's also specific to your chart. And so whenever I have a rough, interesting Mercury retrograde, it's always manifests in technology. That's how it expresses itself for me. So maybe Betty will chime in because I'm not super. Yes, so she's right. Mercury retrograde plus Sun, Merc, Neptune, all in Pisces. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so there you go. So for me, it always sort of rears its head. It makes itself known through technology, getting wobbly. But yes, when we are live, the beauty is that we're live, and I'm sitting here in my living room. We're having a real conversation, and I'm connecting wherever you are right now, and we're live. It's not pre-recorded. That's a really neat, amazing thing that we can connect through the internet like this and have these kinds of conversations. But the drawback is that we are live and that we're at the whim of the internet and technology and electricity and a whole bunch of other things. So anyway, so back to, someone asked a really great question, actually. The super moon, yes, so it's a super moon. So my favorite things to do, I am very old school when it comes to the moon. So I really view the full moon for a fruition of projects. I see it as an abundant energy. I mean, obviously it's a full moon. But I'm really big on using the energy of the full moon to charge your intentions, charge your to like expansive. Think like big, bright, expansive. To charge your whatever you're working on. It's a great time to put crystals out and charge them if you have crystals. You could take a moon bath. So a moon bath could be, you could just go out into the moonlight and just, like you're washing yourself in the silver light of the moon. If you could take a literal bath when the moon is up. You could take, if you really want to get magical, you could set your bath. You could bring some water outside and hold it up to the light of the moon and let the moonlight infuse a little bit of water, like say like a bowl or like a canning jar of water, and then bring that blessed moon water back to your bath and add it to your bath water, and then take your bath. And that would be like a really neat thing to do. And if like I said, Betty's the master astrologer here, so she could probably talk a little bit more about what the moon is in. I know it's like the super worm moon. It seems like every other month is a super moon now lately. But like I said, I'm gonna pass the super astrology piece off to someone who I know is a master astrologer that's hanging out here tonight. I have a background in astrology, but not at the level that Betty does. So anyway, so hopefully that gives you some tips of some things that you could do for the moon. So let's talk about like how do we grow our witch connection? How do we grow that energy? So some things that are really good to do is one, to acknowledge it and recognize it. That once it's stirring in you, once you're feeling called and compelled, and like this force has awakened. I think it's important to give it a name and to honor it and recognize it. I think often in our culture, it's minimized or scoffed at, or people make Harry Potter jokes. They don't really understand like what all that might mean. And so, or we might be in a situation where we can't, due to job or family, we might not be able to really express it or talk about it. So that can be very challenging. So I think it's really important that the first things that we do when we feel this stirring inside ourselves, and we kind of are acknowledging, like, yeah, I'm kind of on the witchy leaning side of things. I'm curious about magic. I want to maybe learn about spells and how to be a magical practitioner. What does that mean to be a magical practitioner? I want to tap into my witchier side. I want to explore what it means to be pagan or Wiccan or any of those traditions like that. What would it mean to follow the wheel of the year, the seasonal wheel of the year? What would it mean to chart the moon and through all its phases and see how that affects my life? So I think the first step is it's really important to acknowledge and recognize it as something real, real to you, and real to many people. You're not alone in that. And I think it's important to like if you have folks that you can chat about it with, I think that that's really empowering as well. If you can't chat with people in your immediate, sometimes due to things like with work or family, we're not able to speak about it openly. But I do think it's important to speak about it openly. So if you can't, I would encourage you to find community. The power and the beauty of the internet is it's easier now. Find community where you can have honest conversations and talk about what's what you're feeling and what's stirring and what's going on. And then the next thing I think is really helpful is I call it meditate, create, and commune. Commune, C-O-M-M-U-N-E. So I think it's important to meditate, create, and commune with yourself and with external energies so that you can start to really nurture and grow this energy. So if you think about it, it's internal and with an external expression, if that makes sense. Like our connecting to our inner witch. That's something that's going on internally, but it's also about reaching out to the world around us. It's I once heard this wonderful thing. It is from an elder and teacher I know. This is from another elder and teacher, so I didn't coin this phrase, but they described it as like being a witch is like an orientation. Like you are, that it's how you are oriented, and you just are aware of it. And that's why many of us, whether we come to this path later in life or earlier, why we feel such a familiarity and such a recognition, and we feel like we're remembering something, and we kind of always knew, because it's innately and fundamentally in us. And I think that's a powerful way of looking at it. So my hat's off to this mentor that expressed it that way, but it's like as viewing it as like being a witch is an orientation, which definitely try that on, might resonate for you, might not, resonates for me really powerfully. So I've come up with these 3 processes. I call it meditate, create, and commune. So but meditation can get a real bad rap. So let's unpack any stories we have around meditation practice. Because if you really want to grow your connection to your inner witch, and you really want to grow your abilities and your confidence and your skill, like your connection, you're going to need to figure out a way to have a meditation practice. And a lot of times people immediately reach to, oh, I tried that and it didn't work, or I sat down and my head got crazier. Or they bring up these images. They think of the austere monk on a mountain somewhere, or the Dalai Lama who's got this amazing meditation practice because they've been raised in the culture doing it since they were little children. And so they immediately start telling themselves a story. That's not for me. I can't do that. I tried it once. My head got busier. My nose itched. My leg twitched. Meditation's not for me. I can't do it. So I want to suggest that you approach meditation from a new perspective and engage yourself in a new relationship, and just be open-minded about how might you engage in a meditation practice, because as a witch, honestly, it's kind of like you can't skip that step. We can avoid it, but it will always follow you forever in your ability if you don't sit down at the table and figure out a meditation practice. So now I'm going to suggest to you, considering it doesn't have to be sitting still on like a little pillow on the floor staring at a candle. So meditation can be, consider meditation in movement. There is more than one way to bring stillness, to enter into stillness, to become centered. I want you to start thinking about meditation as a process of becoming more and more centered, more and more still, in a point of stillness, able to listen and receive information and feedback from the world around you with all of your senses. And so once I heard this, that prayer is when we send out a request, and that meditation, or being in a state of stillness, is when we receive the return message, which I thought was very beautiful and really makes a lot of sense to me. So you can try on meditation, what I call meditation in motion. So I have a very busy mind, and so like at this point in my journey, I can sit still and do a sitting still meditation. But in the early days, like that didn't work for. I encountered many of the challenges that people tell me that they encounter too now. So like I encountered them as well. But consider taking long walks, going for a long walk. You might be a runner. When you run, when you get into a rhythm and your feet are pounding on the pavement or wherever you're, treadmill or grass, that rhythm brings you to a place of meditation. Maybe you do yoga, maybe you dance or do a static dance. Maybe you, I used to be a rock climber, and I used to call it like yoga on a wall. That's because there's a lot of stillness that has to occur when you're climbing. So you could be riding your bicycle. And maybe you do have a sitting meditation where you sit. You could begin with guided meditation where you, whether it's like a sound that you listen to and someone talks you through it, or music. That now that we have the internet, you can get an app on your phone for free, and it will play like 2 minutes of peaceful music. You could go walking, if you can't be still, or you could try being still. But I really want you to approach a meditation practice and engage it, because honestly, it's going to really greatly expedite your growth and give you a way for you to receive information from the world around you and from your senses. And that's going to actually really grow you very quickly. I'm just going to check because it looks like maybe there's a lot of chats or comments. Just bear with me while I read through. Yay, Betty shared us stuff about the moon. That's awesome. Thank you. Moon is best aspecting the sun and Saturn in positive ways. Good time for feeling, sorry, the chat room jumps, feeling into your goals, which I love to do when the moon is full anyway. That's awesome. Thank you, Betty, for sharing that. Many guided, yes, there are so many guided meditations, and YouTube is a great resource for them. And there's also an app, I believe it's still free. It's called calm.com, CALM.com. And you can get the free level of it on a smartphone, and you can tell it you tell it kind of music you want to listen to, like nature sounds or soft music, or water, and you can program like you want to do it for 2 minutes or 1 minute. Yes, not only is it great to get outside and listen to the forest, it's also when you're outside in nature, this thing called, in Japanese culture, they call it forest bathing. But there's a lot of awareness around like being outside in nature and the incredible healthy effects it has on you, and helps to like bring down inflammation. It's very we're meant to be outside, not sitting in wooden chairs like I am right now inside a house. Oh, Insight Timer. That's good to know. I haven't heard of that one. So thank you, Betty, for sharing Insight Timer. I'm aware of Calm.com. Yes, walking barefoot. So Anne-Marie's sharing about walking barefoot. It's so helpful. Do you think it's possible to turn off your intuition? This is from Yasmin. To turn off your intuition or openness to channel energy temporarily when you don't want to receive. Do you think it's possible to turn off? Yes, absolutely. The chat won't scroll. Sometimes the chat's a little goofy about scrolling. It isn't scrolling on my phone properly, I've noticed. I'm not sure what that's all about. You might, yeah, it's my phone's, the chat is not scrolling properly either, but it's scrolling properly on a laptop. Sometimes you can click out and back in, but I don't know if you want to do that. But it is, I don't know why it's being a little goofy tonight. So to answer Yasmin's question, yes, as you grow and develop, the first thing is to get really in tune with your abilities to receive information, and with that comes your ability to request to shut it down when we're in situations where we don't want to be like wide open. But we actually want to learn how to turn it on and off, and because we don't want to always be walking around. Think of a situation like if you were in a very busy store and there was a bunch of unhappy people around you. You don't want to be necessarily being pelted by all that, or if it was very busy, or if you go to the mall at Christmas, it can be very chaotic. Think of these things, or traffic jam. You know, you might want to, there's definitely times when you're going to want to be able to be aware of how to turn on and turn, think of it like, you don't want to ever really turn it profoundly off. So it's better to think of it like a knob, like we're dialing it back down or turning it up to a louder volume. That's a really good question. And hopefully that gives you a sense. So some help. So meditate, create, and consume. So creating is another way to tap into your inner witch and to grow it. And what do I mean by creating? Any way you want to create. That might be writing, that might be coloring, that might be scrapbooking, that could be knitting. It could be that you are crafty, like maybe you make magical or intentional crafts. Maybe you're into herbs and you make salves and potions. Maybe you are creating by planting a garden, whether it's in containers or in like a bigger space. Creation and being aware of our creating, our creative ability and our creative energy is very correlated to, like, when we connect into our creativity, we're connecting to our soul on a deeper level, and we're communing with ourselves on a deeper level. And by having an avenue for your creativity, and people often, another story they tell themselves is they don't have a creative bone in their body, and that's not true. It could be like making food. You could be a foodie. You could be not make food, but like to make dessert. You could be a great mixer of drinks. Like, think of a bartender that makes incredible fancy vodka infused cocktails. So creativity is unique to each person. Could be like you make amazing Excel forms. That's creativity, and it might seem very scientific or not scientific, like linear. So but that's still creation. So when we tap into our creative energies and give ourselves a conduit or channel to be creative, we're tapping deeper into our soul. And when we tap deeper into our soul, we can commune on a deeper level with that inner spark, that inner magical energy that's going on. So if you're feeling like you've got some pent up energy, witchy energy, and you're not really sure how to express it or where to begin or what to do, picking a couple creative things to do where you really feel like you're in a zone can be really good medicine for that, spiritual medicine for that. And then my other thought here, my 3-word thought, is something I'll call commune. And so we've kind of been talking about that because we talked about going outside, and people already shared like going outside barefoot or standing deep in the woods. So an important part to developing your connection with your inner witch is to give yourself permission to commune with that aspect of yourself. And we do that by creating, on purpose, creating a sacred container, a sacred space where we can meet with ourselves. So these things like the meditation and creation. So my little 3 words tonight: meditate, create, and consume. And consume, that was pretty funny. Commune. So meditate, create, and commune. The first 2, meditation, creation, they allow for communing. And when we commune deeply with ourselves and our world around us, we will start to connect more and more deeply with our inner witch. And as we connect more and more deeply, and especially with the creation part, we can start to really bring it forward and find the different unique ways your inner witch wants to express itself. So, I love it. I consume creatively. Yes. I heard this great thing. It was a Marie Forleo quote, but she says, create before you consume, which I say that to myself all the time. It's so powerful. Meaning, like, do your create, like, we so often in this world, because of our smartphones and the way, yes, the internet's really neat. Yes, it's neat. We can carry little computers around our phones, and some people get to wear little Apple Watches and have a computer right on their wrist. But one of the drawbacks is that that means that we're constantly exposed to consumption. And exercise I highly recommend, especially if you want to connect deeper to your inner witch, is when you wake up in the morning, do not look at your phone. Don't touch shut the alarm off if you're using for your alarm, and that's it. Don't start scrolling through social media. Don't scroll through your email. Don't go swipe right or left to the news page. I fall into being guilty of this too, but I really strive to not do it. Leave that when you first wake up in the morning, that fresh time when your mind is rested. It's a very powerful time. And so really do not consume external things until you've created. So it's create before you consume. So that means that we save that first space when we wake up for ourselves. That's the perfect time to put in a 2-minute meditation, 2 minutes of creativity. If you write or color or are working on an art project or something, or like to dance, that's where you could put in 2 minutes of communing. I recently heard one person said their meditation teacher said, if you don't have time to meditate for 2 minutes in the morning, then you need to meditate for 5. I thought that was really kind of a great thing, because basically, if you can't meditate for 2 minutes, then your job is to meditate for 5, because then you will discover you can meditate for 2 minutes. So all of this really is all about that we have to step into, nothing teaches it like experience. Your magic comes alive when you practice it. Your magic comes alive when you step into real experience around it. But you have to move into action. Another phrase I heard from another mentor recently is, you can't move a parked car. It's much harder to move a parked car. If a car is on and going, it's easier to move. It's harder to move a parked car. And your magic is like that. Your inner witch energy is like that. You can't move a parked car. Yes, we can get into semantics and say, well, you can be a smarty pants and say, you can get in the front seat and turn it on, you can move it then. I'm talking about that it's easier to move a car that's already in motion than to move one that is parked with the emergency brake on. And let's imagine there's those chalk blocks under the wheels. It's always easier to redirect and move more or discover more once you're in motion. So the biggest takeaway for tonight is about it's important that for your tapping deeper and connecting deeper to your inner witch is that you got to get emotion around it. So anyway, so one of the things I wanted to also announce tonight and share with you all, if you are looking for support, inspiration, community to empower your journey of connecting into your inner witch, nurturing your inner spark, your inner fire, is that this week I have announced the doors open to a passion project that is near and dear to my heart. One of my superpowers is about creating community, creating and holding sacred space, creating communities, connecting people. One of my superpowers is definitely seeing the magic in people and really supporting and nurturing and helping them breathe those magical sparks into stronger and stronger flames so that they can step into living their life connected to their spiritual authenticity and feeling empowered rather than disempowered. So this week I opened the doors to an exciting new program, a new community, a new kind of community. It is an online magical membership, and it's called The Witching Well. You maybe have seen, if you follow me, you might have gotten some emails, you might have seen some posts, but I have opened this magical community. It's an online community that eventually will have a in-person meetup if you are local to Massachusetts, but it's going to begin online. And also always be online for people that are global looking for community that maybe not in, like if you live in a state or a location where it's a little bit harder to connect with community, we're going to have like this online, always have this online presence. But anyway, so I've opened the doors to The Witching Well, which is an online magical community. And I just wanted to share real quickly that some of the benefits of this is that you will get to be part, if you decide to come in as a founding member, and it's only open for founding members until Friday. So Friday at midnight, the doors to founding members close. And once they're closed, the opportunity to be a founding member is done. So what are the benefits to coming in? Like, what can you expect if you decide you want to learn more and you want to join me as a founding member and what I'm creating? So you are going to have access to a mindfully curated, facilitated community that I'll be guiding. Within that container, we're going to be going on a journey of inspiration and information. So each month we are going to be having a focused teaching, like a pragmatic skill that ultimately will help build your skills if you are a pagan, witchy, magical leaning person. We're not in one particular tradition. We're open-minded in that sense. I'm drawing from my over 25 years of experience studying many different traditions, some formal and some less formal. So each month we're going to move through a focused teaching. So there'll be tutorials and workbooks and interactive guidance as we move through. Each month we'll own a certain focus. So we begin in April, we'll have one focus. May we'll have a different focus. June we'll have a different one, but they'll all be putting together founding blocks for you and empowering you on your journey, your spiritual journey. Within each month, there will be, if for people who have been asking me to be able to work with me one-on-one. So what we're going to be having are group coaching calls. They're going to be spiritual mentoring and magical coaching calls. They'll be live, online, through right now it looks like it'll be Zoom, like video conferencing. So you'll be able, if you have always wanted to come along and be able to work with me on an ongoing basis for spiritual mentoring to help grow your spiritual authenticity and your gifts, this is definitely going to be the vehicle for that. So there'll be 2 of those calls every month. There will also be guest interviews with real life magical practitioners. I have the blessings to be connected to a lot of amazing people. So I'll be bringing them in for these different highlight guest interviews where they'll share wisdom from their journey to help also help us grow and inspire you. There will be extra neat things like there'll be like a community healing cauldron. So I will be maintaining a healing altar for the group, and a healing cauldron will, you can place your name or the names of other people. And this healing cauldron will be worked on a healing altar for a moon cycle, like each month, and then released, and then a new one begun each month. So there'll be these kind of neat, ongoing, extra special surprises and cool stuff happening. And if you were to join me now as a founding member, I'm looking for some folks that really want to commit and grow their witch energy and their witch connection, and would be excited from this kind of opportunity, because I'm looking for founding members that want to show up, participate, and provide feedback and help shape where this goes. Like one of our pieces we'll be adding is an in-person meetup. And ultimately, I really would like to have a retreat. I think that would be really exciting and awesome, where we got to actually go and meet up and practice our magic in person together. So I'm looking for founding members that really want to come in, are ready to implement, participate, show up, and provide feedback and really help shape these early days of the Witching Well. So if that might be you, you're definitely going to want to I'll put the link in the chat room or reach out to me after. Anyone who does come on as a founding member is going to get bonuses of 2 extra. There'll be 2 additional magical coaching calls with me, and there will be 2 additional magical workshops. So the first workshop is going to be making magic in small spaces, and the other workshop is going to be magical recharge, that will include a personal self-care ritual. So those are some exciting things I have going on. And if you come in as a founding member, those are some pretty exciting extra attentions and energies, extra ways you can work with me that will be happening. And also, if you come in as a founding member, you're going to get locked in, grandmothered in at the rate, the whole monthly membership is $19 a month. And if you come in as a founding member, that will be your rate forever. You will be grandmothered in, provided you don't leave. So as long as you don't leave the membership, you will retain that $19 a month, because it's only open. These doors are only open till Friday. And when they close, they're closed till later in the year. I won't reopen the community till later in the year. And when I reopen it, the price will be more. So this is like a special pricing for the founding members, and they will stay at that rate. Like I said, provided you don't leave. If you were to leave the Witching Well and come back at a later date, then you come back in at whatever is the current rate of the well. So anyway, so that's some exciting stuff I have going on. If anyone is, hey, Rose is here. Hi, Rose. Rose came to both my workshops this week. That's exciting. Yeah, Rose just signed up for the Witching Well. I'm super excited to have her in the group. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions about it or wants to pick my brain a little bit, definitely feel free to ask me. I will put the link in the chat room if you want to go read more about it. And also anyone who, if you are not already on my email, you might want to get on the email, because there's going to be some extra special things happening going out to the email on Friday. Oh, yay. So I love that Rose is here. Rose is brings so much wisdom to the spiritual journey. So I don't see any questions in the chat room. Is there any questions you want to ask me about how you can connect deeper to your inner witch, how you could take it to the next level? Is there anything around connecting to your inner witch that I could help you with before we wrap up the call? I would love for you to put your questions in the chat box, and we've still got some time. And if there's a way I could help or help inspire your journey or answer any questions tonight, definitely throw them in the chat here and let me know. And you're going to have to help me understand how to pronounce Jean-Elise. Is it Jean-Elise? Yeah, it would be honored to have you join us. We already have a bunch of folks that have signed up, and I would be honored if you became one of them as well. I hope I said your name right. You'll have to maybe write it phonetically in the chat. But yeah, does anyone have any questions about how I could help you take your connection to your inner witch any deeper before we wrap up for the evening? Definitely throw your questions in the chat box, and I'm happy to answer them for you. I'll give you guys a couple minutes. So my last other things that have helped me really connect to my inner witch knowing is if you have access to any kind of public gatherings for witches and pagans, or festivals, or some amazing, depending where you are in the country, there are some really powerful festivals that are really incredible. Temple of Witchcraft has Temple Fest. There's a really great festival in Connecticut that happens in August. There are things on the West Coast. There's things down in the South. There's all these amazing festivals happening all around the country, and in other countries in Canada and in England. There are amazing festivals. There's a big goddess conference in England in the summer. So there's the Women's Herbal Conference and different locations around the country. So if you have the opportunity to go to a festival, the immersion experience is really incredibly transformative. If you can get to go to one of these festivals, There's always top-notch presenters in classes, but something that's very powerful is the thing that happens in what I call the marketplace and the community hearth. Like usually always outdoor fest. They're usually outdoor, like in campgrounds or like with cabins and camping. Sometimes they're also like in the winter, there are conference ones in hotels. But if you can get to, which are wonderful too, Convocation's one that just happened either in Wisconsin or Minnesota. But if you can get to an outdoor one where there's a fire, an outdoor central fire, like a hearth that becomes like the community hearth, and there's like live music and drumming and dancing, that's a very, very powerful way. If you can do firework that's around a fire with sacred drums and sacred dance, even if you aren't a dancer, if you just sit at the fire, if you have mobility challenges, you could sit at the fire and still just be there in the energy, and that's very healing and transformative. And if you can move around the fire. Some really amazing, some of my most transformative, deepest healing has taken place around a sacred fire. So my last thought to share, for if you really want to kind of turbocharge your connecting to your inner witch, it can be really powerful if you can get to an event like one of these kinds of festivals where there's a strong energetic container being held, a strong magical presence, and there's a certain kind of magic that comes together around the central fire in community that is really hard to articulate. So like if you can get to one of those kinds of experiences, I highly recommend it. Plus your exposure to incredible teachers and presenters and different ways to think outside the box around your spiritual journey is a really great. Like anytime there are festivals, they put a lot of thought into them, and the people they bring in to teach and present are very diverse, and they bring a lot of information and wisdom and cover a lot of topics. And there's a lot of emphasis on community, which is very, very powerful. So that's my last tip, is if you can get to one of these local festivals or whatnot. Plus, if you're someone where you are somewhat isolated or haven't had the chance to meet with other people and experience community, or it isn't like, sometimes for some folks, it's like, we have, due to jobs or family or other situations, we might have to stay in the broom closet. And so when you go to a festival, you are somewhere where you can really express it's safer and more appropriate to be able to express yourself and explore all that witchy interest in energies that you would like to check out. So that's my last tip I suggest, is if you can get yourself to a festival, I highly recommend it. Thank you, saying awesome tarot teacher. Megan's asking, and yes, so take tarot out of the box. Oh yes, thanks, Rose. I do teach an online course. I have taught Take Tarot Out of the Box, and I do teach tarot. So I'm right now going to be teaching primarily through the Witching Well. That will be where I'll be focusing my teaching in the next 6 months or a year. Inside the Witching Well, my intention is to start bringing in divination and tarot classes, because I know that there's a need for that. You could go right now. There is up on my website, owentree.com. There is Get Started Learning Tarot. There's already a pre-recorded mini course up on the Owentree site that you can go and check out. And I will be offering divination, oracle, all things divination, and tarot will come through into the Witching Well as we go through the time together. But right now I am concentrating my teaching in through the Witching Well, because I really want to invest and show up and really focus in one and nurture a group of folks and really bring them on a journey. And tarot will definitely at some point be part of that. Hopefully that answers your question. You can definitely get in touch, but if you go to, I'm assuming everyone here knows about owentree.com, but I will put that up. And if you go to owentree.com, there is Get Started with Tarot, basic tarot class that's all about building your hands-on relationship with daily practices, how to read one card intuitively, how to really build your connection and relationship with your tarot deck, to get to really fuel and inspire your tarot process. So hopefully that answers your question. That was a great question. I don't see any last questions. So with that, I'm just going to say thank you for taking the time to listen to me, let me to come into your world and share what I'm passionate about, which is about inspiring and empowering your authentic spiritual journey as a earth-centered spiritualist or magical practitioner or witch or Wiccan or pagan. So I appreciate you letting me come into your life and take the time to chat with you. And I appreciate if you have caught this on the replay. Appreciate you also taking the time to stay with me through the whole thing. If you have any questions about anything we've been talking about tonight, or if you have questions about the Witching Well and what it would mean to be a founding member, don't hesitate to shoot me a message, get in touch. I'm definitely answering questions. And, if you want to chat some more, just definitely get in touch with me and I'd be happy to do that. All right. So on that note, I wish you all a very blessed and happy evening, and go out there and enjoy that amazing full moon that's happening tomorrow. All right. I'll talk with you more in the future soon. Bye-bye.